Yeah, recording. It's okay. Already started.
你现在也不用吧，太早了，到时候你还得
Only a few minutes. A few minutes away.
对，但
Uh,
那到时候你还要
okay.
projections using some machine learning model. But before that, I would like to welcome you, every old friend and a new friend of CADSEA. And I'm very happy to see you here. And I saw some new names. Welcome you. It's a community platform. We're trying to build a data science and the data engineering community for Chinese professionals, researchers, and students and the faculties passionate in data science and analytics and machine learning, artificial intelligence. So this is what CADSEA about. So CADSEA, if you don't know, its full name is Chinese American Data Science and Engineering Association. It's established in last year, so we're only about a year and a half old. So it's still very young, it's still in the baby stage. But our mission is to build a organic community for every one of us who are interested in data, work with data, or probably building some advanced technologies in AI, machine learning, and data science. So we welcome all kinds of professionals and people from different background, different industries, different career history. We're open to all ethnics and the people from all background. So the development and the growth of this community cannot do without your support and help. Now, I just can't believe it. We're already in almost the last 2 months of the year. It's already getting close to the end of 2020. We are preparing for the annual conference of CADSEA for 2020. But last year's annual conference was still very vivid in my memory. It was just like it happened yesterday or last week. I almost remember, I still remember almost every detail of the annual conference. Was very successful. We got support attendance for like about 100 people from everywhere in greater Washington, D.C., and we have great speakers. This year, even though we have been through a lot, the COVID and economic shakeout, a lot of things happened. Some of you may have lost the job. Some of us may have changed the job. Some of us, may have gone through struggles in our life. But we hold on. CADSEA as a whole, as a community, we hold together. We quickly adjusted ourselves to the new environment, like working from home, keep the social distance, and using more and more online platform to communicate. So we through the year, we have hosted almost every month, we have hosted a stand-up online, and we still, every time we got 40, 50, 60 people attend. That was amazing from, what we have been through, what we have seen, from the dynamics, and a lot of things happened around us. And imagine what happened to us is just very amazing. So I want to thank you for all your support, especially for the leadership of CADSEA. Carry on this platform and keep building this community. And thank everyone in the community to provide us the moral support and the physical support. So when we are looking at the new conference, the annual conference, we have the plan, and we did our best to plan for the annual conference, given all those hardship and struggles and troubles we're facing. But we're thinking we need to carry the torch. We need to carry the torch on. So we don't want to give us any excuse not having the annual conference, even though we are moving online. So this year, we plan to have the annual conference on December 5th, which is a Saturday, which will be the first Saturday of December. We will host the annual conference online, and we are very actively inviting the keynote speakers. Now we have 2 speakers already confirmed. Um, I will choose not to tell who the speakers are. Just give you some uh, you know a cliffhanger to have your curiosity there. But I sincerely invite all of us, every member in the community, everyone who is interested in data science, to join and attend this virtual annual conference online scheduled on December 5th afternoon. And we will also have a panel discussion talking about the impact of COVID on our jobs, our industry, our economy, and probably the green card application, job application, H-1B sponsorship, those kind of things. We focus on the panel discussion will be focused on the impact of COVID, because it is number one important event in our life in this year, through the whole year. So this is just a little advertisement for the annual conference. It will be scheduled on December 5th again, in this December 5th afternoon. Everyone is invited, and it will be free. We're not going to charge anything for attending the annual conference. So you will be able to enjoy a virtual feast of information and discussion and exchange of ideas and insights, through the virtual annual conference. So everyone is welcome, and yeah, that's what I want to say. Thank you for your continuous help, support. Ken.
Yes, thank you, Richard, for giving us the heads up about the annual conference. We are very looking forward to it. So now let's hand to our Vice President, Jidong, to share some updates on the membership program.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Ken. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks for all the friends to join today's talk. I want to kind of talk about what is change on the membership. So first of all, my name is Jidong. So I'm one of volunteers with CADSEA. At the same time, I'm the director of the CADSEA membership program. One announcement I will make the following is about extension of CADSEA membership duration. So our current membership program offer 12 months complimentary access to all the events for CADSEA members. So it works as the following. After the membership payment is received, our CADSEA member can sign up any event you like without pay actual cost during the next 12 months. At the same time, all the events are open to non-members, which is mean general public, with very minimum by event admission fee. The goal is we build up a data science community, like Richard mentioned. We hope more and more people can benefit from today's program and all of our program, eventually sign up as members. However, as we know, pandemic changed our daily work and life dramatically starting from early this year. So we convert all of our in-person event into online events. At that time, we hope online events was just a temporary solution. However, during the most recent 2 or 3 months, the situation everyone knows got worse. So right now it's pretty difficult for us to predict when we can meet in person. So one thing Richard mentioned, the longer of this situation persists, more and more people, including our data science professionals, are impacted. Clearly, there are more needs for us to stay together, help each other. So I hope today's talk from Dr. O and all the future and the coming events can provide helpful insights to each of us to sharpen our skill set, to broaden our vision, and position us well during this tough period. So as a nonprofit organization with mission of building up data science community and serving the community, CADSEA management team decide to extend the CADSEA membership duration as following. So starting from today's event until our next in-person event, all the online event will be free of charge to non-members. Accordingly, the counting of 12 months membership duration will be stopped or frozen during this period. Let me give an example. If our next in-person event happens in next February, the duration of membership will become 15 months, which means we will add 3 additional months into original 12 months duration. If the next in-person event can only be happen by next May, the effective membership will be 18 months. So that's very similar to the deferral of forbearance program, which with the goal of helping out customers during the COVID. At this time, we truly don't know when in-person event can be organized safely in the future, and it's largely determined by how the pandemic is evolving. I want to mention one more benefit. Even the clock of 12 months membership for payment purpose is stopped, but the clock of 12 months requirement for voting purpose is still running, which means per our membership agreement, only members with over 12 months tenure are eligible to participate voting. We still hope more and more members can sign up during this special period in this year, so you can participate voting of next year. I hope this change can benefit both members and non-members. Please wait for more detail we will send out in the future. So let me finish my announcement saying that this decision is completely driven by our mission, which is we want to build up the data science community, and we hope we will weather this uncertain period together. So please stay safe and healthy. Please enjoy today's presentation. So let me turn back to Ken. Thanks.
Thank you, Simon. Yeah, so now please allow me to introduce our guest speaker, Dr. Sean O. Dr. Sean O is a R&D staff member from the Transportation Analytics and Decision Science Group at the Oak Ridge National Library. His research mainly focuses on quantifying the energy market dynamics and the risk through modeling and optimization, technological innovation and diffusion in the vehicle industry. And he's also interested in quantitatively addressing the policy implications of energy supply and the use from their economy, social, and environmental aspects. He is also a CFA chart holder and currently serves as a member in the TRB, which is the Transportation Research Board Energy Committee, and the chair of subcommittee of international aspects of transportation energy. With that, let's welcome Dr. Sean O to share his interesting research.
Thank you so much for the introduction by Ken. Uh, Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? I just want to confirm my voice is clear and can be heard by everybody. Hello?
Yes,
Yeah,
we can hear you.
I can hear you. And by the way, all of the attendees are automatically mute by default. If you have questions, you can unmute yourself anytime. Yeah.
Yes, please unmute your Zoom and ask me questions anytime if you want to interrupt me. Welcome. Uh, First of all, thank you so much for the CADSEA, the invitation. I have been the audience for this association for a while, and it's my big pleasure to join as a speaker here to introduce my research and my academic background, what I have done in Oak Ridge National Lab. Before I officially introduce this topic today, uh, since most of you, I guess, are from the industry area and some are academics, but a few of them might not from the national lab, so I want to introduce my workplace. So as Ken has introduced, I'm working in Oak Ridge National Laboratory located at Knoxville, Tennessee, north part, a city located at the east of Tennessee, very close to the Great Smoky National Park. As you can see from my virtual background, there's a picture I took 2 weeks ago in the Smoky Mountain. So it's a very beautiful place currently, and Oak Ridge National Park was established by the U.S. government in the World War II for the Manhattan Project. So the first nuclear weapon and nuclear reactor, not the weapon, nuclear reactor was developed in Oak Ridge National Lab. So that's the reason why the Oak Ridge National Lab was established. And now after the Cold War, it's now expand the research topics to more than the nuclear, and it has many different perspectives in the research area, such as transportation energy, the environmental analysis, and materials engineering, and also included a lot of data and computer research. It once have the largest and best supercomputer in the world. The name is Titan, as you can see here. And it is going to have some more very big supercomputer in the very near future. So back to my topic. Today, I'd like to introduce my recent research study, which was done in June and has been published in July, I think. The name of the study is COVID-19 Energy Demand Projections using Machine Learning Model. And before that, I'd like to introduce my research background. As a research member in the national lab, so when the COVID-19 pandemic happened, the sponsors from the US DOE, the Department of Energy, and some other sponsors asked our scientists, what can we do to help the public to feel better, to relieve their relieve their lives through the pandemic. So some of the scientists in the Oak Ridge National Lab, they developed some tool to help to project the transportation, the traffic data, impact data, and some of the scientists in the Oak Ridge National Lab, they developed some new biodetector machine to help the doctors to better to develop some better tool for detecting the disease. So from our research background, we majorly focus on the energy analysis, and we just want to use our research background to find something to help the public, to help the government to build a better life, to project the potential impact of the energy to the normal life to the public. So at that moment, there is a very important issue happened in the oil market. And I guess most of us might have known that is oil price in the market, especially the West Texas intermediate oil price suddenly become a negative number in April this year. So as you can see from this graph, it's because of the demand suddenly drop, and the public has very negative projection to the near future. So the value of the oil price becomes negative, and it make a lot of people lose their money. So that gives me an idea that why couldn't we project the near future oil demand, so can help the public, help the investors, and to project the potential impact to the oil price, so we can stabilize the economics. That's the background. So what we want to do first is to understand the field demand results from ongoing changes in personal travel patterns and the evolution of the COVID-19 pandemic, and how it's connected with transportation energy, and how it impacts the potential human being travels. And so we think about if we want to develop a tool in a short time, maybe the machine learning tool would be a very good option for us to combine those very complex issues and parameters together. Those parameters may involve to the areas such as personal mobility and pandemic projections, such as the new infection cases and the new daily death cases, and also the public policies, and also maybe refer to the demographic data, such as the number of population in each state in the US, and the economics development level, and the urban areas, and the density of the population in the urban areas. In this project, the sponsor is from the Aramco Service Company, and except the researchers from the Oak Ridge National Lab, we also have co-authors from the Aramco Service Company, the MIT, Michigan Department of Transportation, and the another national lab, the Argonne National Lab, located in Chicago. What we do with a machine learning tool, we call this tool as the pandemic oil demand analysis model. As you can see, the model generally we divide it into two parts. The first section, we call it the mobility projection module. The second section, we call it field demand estimation module. And we use a machine learning tool as a core tool for us to combine all the inputs and to output all the information in this product model. I will go to more details in next slides, and more information for you to understand the basic flow and knowledge of this model. As I just mentioned, we have a lot of information to be as parameters in the model. Firstly, as a researcher from the energy field, actually we have no basic knowledge about the pandemic and especially how the disease, the transition of the disease. So we use the CDC pandemic models, recommended models to project the future COVID-19 pandemic, such as new cases and new deaths in the future. One major tool is YYG, and another one is a model developed by the MIT. Besides that, as I just mentioned, we also have the input from the demographic data, and also we have some government policies into the model. After the mobility projection model we use the machine learning tool to do the projection and use the projection to understand how the future transportation mobility impacts the fuel demand, and then sum up all the fuel demand from each in each state in the US to get the some information of the US, the whole fuel demand in the US, so we can get the fuel demand projection. As I just mentioned, we have a lot of different historic data need to collect. So I will introduce them one by one. Firstly, as I mentioned, we want to quantify the impact of the pandemic to the mobility, especially how people choose to go to different locations during the pandemic life. So the information we collect is one is we came from the Google Mobility Trends report. So you can go to the website to download the information, how people mobility change during the pandemic. And the second information source is from the community mobility report published by Google. And because of the pandemic and the consequence of the government lockdown policies, people may choose not to go out for shopping, or they couldn't go out for the children, for the kids, they couldn't go out for the school because school was enforced to close during the pandemic period. So all those parameters could impact the people choice to go out, and the choice to go out for may vary, depends on the trip purpose, such as work, retail, and restaurants, grocery, and pharmacy. We will go to see how their difference will be during those times. And one important is Google Mobility Report. This is important, is very helpful because it divides the trips based on different purpose, as I just mentioned. You can check how the trip changes for retail recreation, and for the grocery and the pharmacy as a trip purpose, how it changed to the normal time, and for the parks, how it changed, and for the workplace, how it changed. And as I mentioned, how it changed, it definitely has a baseline. So the Apple Mobility and Google Mobility has different baseline. For example, the baseline for Google Mobility is the median value of the corresponding days during the weeks in January and February. Here I summarize the changes of the mobilities for different trip purpose. As here I made an example for 4 different trip purpose. You can see the parks didn't change much because this is a national the nationwide average. So as you can see, the parts didn't change too much during from February to June. But for the workplace, from March, it has a sudden drop, and then it although after April, some state government has released the lockdown policy better, but the release the recovery of the workplace trips didn't go up much till June. And uh, another one is grocery and pharmacy. After a period in March, late March and early April, it has a very low value compared with the normal days. But after that, people start to recover these trips much quicker than workplaces. So, in a summary, you can find out all the information and summarize the information of trip mobility by purpose through the published data from Google or from the Apple mobility reports. This is changes in route request. That's a summary by the Apple mobility. Is a zoom in version compared with last slide. As I just mentioned, we do not project any COVID-19 pandemic data such as infections and new deaths. So we collect those data from the models published by referenced by the US CDC, and you can find out about more than 10 models from the CDC website. And the most useful, we think, and we actually adopted in our study is two. There are two. One is Youyang-Gu model, which is continued published so far, and another model is developed by the MIT. And that is short-term published data for the near-term COVID-19 projection. Usually those two models only, most of the models published by the US CDC only release the near-term projection, usually 2 to 3 months. And the longest term is by a YYG model can be as far as 6 months. But actually for 1 to 2 year projection data, it has been published by a science paper. If you are interested, you can go to that paper for more details. Following 2 slides, I will give you a little bit the introduction of the model. This is the model results published by the YYG. As I just mentioned, most of the data only release recent like 2 or 3 months recent projection data. And this is the YYG, the different scenarios divided by us in our paper for the YYG depends on their different scenarios. We named those scenarios as pessimistic scenario, reference scenario, and optimistic scenario. That's the scenario results. And in our study, we used those scenario confirmed cases, the infection cases as the scenario data in our model to project the mobility changes and then project the field demand changes in the near future.
Hey, Sean.
Yes, sure.
Quick question. I know it is not your job, but are there any back testing for the 2 models over the last few months? How those projections perform?
Yes, actually, I went to the website. It claimed that it has very good projections compared the real data, historic data, and the projection data at that time, which we call it back testing. Mm-hmm. So the author, which named Youyang-Gu, he claimed that the back testing is pretty good. But of course, you can leave a message to him, and he can respond many very quickly to you to check out the most recent back testing results for you.
Okay,
But
cool.
we actually asked the same question when we want to adopt their results. He told us and shared us the results. By that time, the back testing is still good. But he also mentioned that because of the pandemic, depends very much on not just the infection rate, right, but also the government policies, and the different location might also vary a lot. So the changes still a lot depends on how the government respond to the pandemic. So we expect there's still a lot of changes in the following months. Yeah.
I see. Thank you.
Thank you. And besides the infection data, which published by the CDC, and we also need to find out the historical travel data because we need to compare the unnormal data in the mobility during the pandemic. We compare it with historic data during the normal days. So the mobility in the normal days we collected from the National Household Travel Survey. You can go to that website for those survey information. And in that survey, you can see we divide the travel trips based on the trip purpose as divided similar to the division by the Google Mobility reports, such as the trip to work, or the trip to school, to medical, shopping, social, recreation, and meals like restaurants. So we find out those information for different states in the US, and then we have a baseline for the mobility during the normal days other than the pandemic days. And the third information of the normal day information during the normal days we need to collect is the oil demand, because our our ultimate target is to find out the potential fuel demand in the near future. So compare with fuel demand during the normal days. Those information you can find through the U.S. Energy Information Administration. That's a government authority in the U.S. And I summarize those information through the after normalize those data. Firstly, you can see there are three different graphs here, and the first one is I compare how the annual fuel demand changed from year 1991 to year 2000, and you can see from that time it start to have a growth rate in the 1919 years, and in recent years from 2016 to 2019, actually the annual fuel demand is very stable. So why I want to say that, because of the stable annual fuel demand. So one of my assumption for the scenario is to assume that if there is no pandemics, so we can project that the fuel demand, the oil demand in the US during 2020 could also potentially be a very stable, at least very close to the near-term years in last 5 years, actually. Another graph is here. We compare the seasonality of the fuel demand from week 1 to week 52 in all the years during last 30 years. So you can see there generally a little bit variation for different weeks, of course, for different months. This is important because we will use this information to adjust our near-term projections in next few, if we want to project our fuel demand in next few months. And you can see the red dot is the information from the pandemic, and the blue, the box plot of the blue box plot is normal days, and you can see the fuel demand during the pandemic days in this year is far away from any years in last 30 years. As I just mentioned, this is our seasonality analysis of the gasoline demand in the US. Is very obvious, and we will use that part of information to adjust our near-term projection. So based on the US Energy Information Administration from the US EIA, so we can find out the historical fuel demand for each state. So you can summarize those information here. And this is the data for the historical COVID-19 data. The confirmed data I download from the some website, and you can see the link here. And usually you can find out the information from the GitHub, I think, still. That's the historical COVID-19 pandemic infection and death data we collected from February to June. And you can see the historical pandemic data jump very suddenly in March, and of course currently still continue. And the next part is the policy data. As we as I just give the information in previous slides, the policy data is very important because the government has very different policy information to the public in different states. So such as the school closure, restaurant restriction, and stay at home restriction. And those public policy would impact the household and the normal people. So that's also an important input for us in our model. And because of the restriction vary by a lot in different states in the US, so we assign 3 different values for those in those policies: 0, 0.5, and 1 as input in our data for our simulation. So through those inputs, we can now have the mobility projection model. First part is the historical COVID-19 data we collected in the GitHub. That's one part. And the second, demographic data, because different states still have a lot of difference among those data. States such as urban area, size of urban area, and the population density. Before we use the data into the machine learning tool, we need to fill out which data are most useful for us. So we did the Pearson coefficient to quantify the data. And the inputs I want to discuss is we didn't use the US confirmed data at that day as the inputs for that day, because we found that is less correlated in to the fuel demand in that day. So we shift the US confirmed cases by several days to see whether it has more correlations to the field demand in that day. So we did some relation analysis here, and this is a Kendall coefficient analysis for different for those inputs, for the correlation analysis of those inputs. That's a Spearman coefficient analysis for the inputs. So after the correlation analysis, we fill out several inputs here. As you can see, that's the table list here, the parameters we use for the tool in our study. And in the study, we want to have several outputs from the model. First one is mobility changes in workplace, and mobility change in the retail, recreation, grocery parks. And the Apple Drive only didn't divide the trip by trip purpose, so it only have a aggregated data output. In the machine learning tool, actually, we use the SHARP method. We adopt it here to quantify the average contribution of the COVID-19 pandemic-related inputs, and use the SHARP method to project the dynamic indices of mobility in the PODA model. The method compose the output prediction of the neural network models on specific inputs by backpropagating the contributions of all neurons in the network to every feature of the input. The features with larger SHARP values commonly weigh more in projecting. So as you can see, the US daily death shift by 10 days way more than US daily confirmed shift by 7 days, and some other informations. And also you can see different public policy has different weight in the SHARP method analysis. For example, the emergency declaration way more in all those public policies here. So that's how we quantify the weightings of different inputs in the model. With the machine learning, we have different layers, right? Hidden layers. So there are more layers, which means more complex. But in order, and actually initially, actually we are not a professional scientist in the data science, so we do not know how to find out the best layers and the best how many nodes in each layer. So we invite some professional researchers from MIT to help us to figure out which machine learning tool we should select. So with the help by the quarters, we use PyTorch to help as a tool to help us to figure out which how many layers and how many nodes we should use. And the network is optimized using ADAM, which is a default learning rate with a default learning rate of 1 -3 and a batch size of 64 to find out the best network in the deep learning framework. And here, as you can see, we select the best layers and the nodes here, which is 2 layers and 25 nodes here. But actually, we didn't see much difference, and you can see the training results and validation results. we didn't see much difference of between when we use different, like how many layers or how many nodes we adopted in the deep learning in this framework. So it didn't very much in the results. Besides, actually, we use the rolling window cross-validation of the neural network model for different combination of the hidden layers and nodes. Actually, in the initial version we submit to the journal, we didn't find out the problem because we are not a very professional researchers in the data science. So I think that is a reminder for you guys as a professional scientist in the data science, because there is a reader or reviewer suggest us, do we do any rolling window cross-validation to verify how we select the layers and how we pick up the nodes, and how do we avoid the overfitting problem in our methods? Actually, in the first version of our model, we didn't sense that is a big issue for us. But with the comments, we add those parts into our study to do the layer and the nodes analysis to compare those information and to find out the best layers and nodes in our model. And also we add the rolling window cross-validation for our model to compare different combination of hidden layers and nodes. So next, there are some results of the model training. Actually, we initially submit those information into the version and the reviewer misunderstood our results. This told us that why, as a projection, it seems that the R square is pretty high, even higher than 0.9. For example, as you can see here, the lowest is 0.82, which means is too, the projection is perfect, perfect to believe. Why is that? And we initially didn't sense our problem when we submit the paper, and actually then we told the reviewer that the actually R square is that high is not because of the overfitting, is just because we use training data as the in-sample comparison. But if you compare the use validation data, the R square wouldn't be that high. And also we told the reviewer that R square is not the best index for the machine learning comparison. And then in next, we use another index as an index for our model comparison, and I will introduce in next few slides. And before that, I will introduce the in-sample comparison, and you can see the in-sample comparison. So the historical data and the projection in the historical data seems project pretty well. This is the example from Alabama, example in New York, and this is the example in Michigan, and this example in Texas. As I just mentioned, because we are actually outside of the data science, so there are some questions, some simple questions raised up by the reviewers, and we fail to answer. So, for example, as I just mentioned, the R square seems pretty high, and it has potential suspect of overfitting, and we gave the reviewer two reasons. Firstly, it's just in sample comparison, is not the validation or the backtesting comparison for the future. So in the backtesting or in the validation results, it wouldn't be that high. Secondly, we admit that R square usually not very good index for the comparison in the machine learning tool, because R square, as our study, is usually for the linear regression comparison as a very good index. So to compare the future, to compare the results in the validation, we change the index to the RMSE, the root mean square area, as an index for the neural network. So as you can see, as you can see from the figure A to figure C, those shows the out of sample testing of the neural network with 2 hidden layers and 25 nodes. The data before May 15 was used for modeling training here, and the data between May 25 and May 31 is for the model testing. The training model will predict the future mobility related to the workplace. This is retail and recreation, and grocery and pharmacy. But for the parks projection, the projection is a little bit poor. But as you can see, there is no overfitting for the performance in the testing data set for the training data set. So at last, the neural network model was retrained with 2/3 of the random sampling of all the available data before June 11th to capture the latest pattern at that time in the study. Next, I will show the projection results. This is the projection results by state is for the New York. This is for the Alabama, and this is an overall picture of the projection of the gasoline demand and mobility level in the US on our reference pandemic scenario. And you can see clearly the mobility and these two US maps shows the mobility level changes compared with reference, the baseline, as I just mentioned. Usually the baseline is the travel mobility during the late January to the early February before the pandemic. The mobility levels in all states.
Excuse me, question.
Yes, sure.
How do you generate the forecast for your input data?
For input data, like what?
Your model,
the mobility?
Yeah, your model takes input data to generate projections, right? And
yes.
Do you generate the input data yourself, or you use some forecast of your input data from somewhere else?
Okay. Well, for the input data, we have the infection data, right? That part we didn't project that data. We use the projection from the models released by the US CDC. For the mobility data, we projected by our own, and for the oil demand, we projected by our own. So basically, that's 3 parts.
So your mobility data and your oil data is more like a self auto-regressive type of data that you can generate the forecast based on the historical values of itself?
Yes. But for the infection data, we didn't project.
Okay, I see. Thanks.
So that's why here in the US map, we project the mobility here by our own. And in this line figure, in the upper figure, we project the oil demand here. and the square dot, the line with square dots is uh, is a scenario under the non-pandemic, which adjusted with the seasonality of the fuel demand. And there are three different scenarios of the oil demand projection here. I will continue the scenarios projection later in more details. But here, one is projected with Google mobility data. As you see here, one is Apple mobility data. And the orange round out, the orange line with round out dot is EIA historic data. And after that, that's the projection of the oil demand. That's the part we projected. And another important part is the mobility level, which we projected for all the states in the US, as you can see here. So in general, the mobility level dropped a lot, as you can see in April. But after April, in June, actually is in late May and early June, a lot of government released their government lockdown policies and opened the restaurants and many workplaces are reopened. So that's why the mobility level recovered and a lot. And in our near-term projection, actually the oil demand has very close to the normal days now, and the workplace and the mobility is also very close in current level. So actually, in our projection, in our study, the mobility level and oil demand is now more related to the government policy rather than the pandemic level. But I will go to more details by scenarios later. And this,
Sean,
yes.
I'm looking at the
Yes.
color of the scale, the previous slide, like negative 60% to 60%. 60% means 60% of January consumption.
Okay. As here, I just use the baseline from the Google Mobility. The Google Mobility only shows the mobility changes. So if you say mobility change level equals to 0%, which means the mobility level equals the level during
January, middle January.
Yeah, mid-January to to early February before the pandemic.
Okay, so the dark blue color means that the fuel the travel is 60% higher than middle January.
Yes, you can say that.
Okay.
There are several reasons. First reason is that why I discuss seasonality of fuel demand, because I can go to earlier there. The fuel demand has seasonality here. So if you use like I use the time frame as week number. So for middle January is here. So even in the normal days, the fuel demand is still lower than the normalized level one, which is normalized level. So January always lowest, the bottom level during a whole year, even in the non-pandemic days.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why if you do nothing during the normal days, you will see an increase of the fuel demand and increase of the mobility from the cold days to the warmer days. So that's why there is an increase. You can see even 40% and 50% of the increase in the mobility level.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why the seasonality adjustment is necessary to help you to find out the difference. Okay, I will go back to the projection results. That slide here. So that's why, especially as you can see in the Middle West, the mobility level has already recovered and even higher than the normal days in January. One reason is because in January in Montana and some Middle West is very cold, but in June it's much warmer. People don't care about the pandemic, how serious it is. They just want to go out for the normal days. So that's why the mobility level becomes dark green here. But later on, we project that that's our old projection. But later on, we believe because of their pandemic becomes more serious in the Middle West. So the green becomes lighter and more close to the, which means the mobility level start to decrease a little bit, but still is already still, we still believe that the mobility level is much higher than the level during April and even during the in January. People still want to go out in the Middle West. So with the mobility level projection, then we can project the fuel demand. So that's how we project the fuel demand as well as the mobility level through the in the analysis. Next,
So have you
yeah.
done any analysis to see if there are any association between the mobility and the confirmed cases over the last few months?
We did that. Actually, the we did that a little bit. We found that the cases become less and less impactful to the mobility level compared with public policies. That's our current conclusion.
I see.
Yeah, which means public policy is very important to decide at least the mobility level and fuel demand in our study.
The
And
policy has to be, sorry, the policy has to be local area, right? Not the federal.
Yes, local area. So that's why we need to the local area policies by actually, we didn't go to the counties because it's more complex, but we divide the policies by state in general. But if you go to more county, by the county level, it should be more related.
Question, how do you forecast policy?
Uh,
You assume for policy doesn't change, or you assume policy will expire in a certain day?
Yes. We first of all, we forecast the policy, but usually when we get the policy information from the GitHub summarized by somebody else, they have also gave, usually the policy have effective days. For example, for the emergency days, it has 90 days. For some, for example, for some states, but if so, we use 90 days as effective information in our model. But after 90 days, the effective days are canceled. So we lift up the policy, and that's how we consider the policy in our model. But we didn't project it, the policy. However, we quantify the impact of the different policy by scenarios. Let's say with the policy, what it will be, and without the policy, what it will be. So we only do the policy analysis in the scenarios, but not for forecasting.
Yong, that's the same as your multifamily credit work. You know, you have different scenarios.
Yes, because we do not want implicit how the policy impact people life, because as government facilities, we have sponsor to review our paper before we publish. So we just stand in the middle and don't want to impact any stakeholders' decision.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, So as I just mentioned, as we know, although we have some implications in our model, but we just use the implications in different scenarios. As here, for example, reference pandemic scenario, optimistic scenario, pessimistic scenario, and also we add the MIT scenario as another model input for our study. And the non-pandemic scenario is field demand, average field demand in last 5 years, as I discussed in last few slides. So as you can see in the optimistic pandemic scenario, which means the pandemic not that serious. So the reproduction values are believed to be smaller than the beginning of the pandemic period, and people assume to be more willing to travel in the pandemic in that scenario. Thus, the gasoline demand after April continued to rapid grow till October, and actually in recent our study has been very close to the normal days scenario. About 95% of that period in the normal days, so very close. And that means the U.S. gasoline demand is almost normal by now. Actually, that's how we project in July, and it seems realized. So that's what we happy to see. So that's, and the MIT scenario also project that the pandemic would go like that, and optimistic pandemic scenario by the YYG, and it will be like that. So that's the most possible scenario by the MIT. But for our reference scenario, it seems like that a little bit lower than a slower increase than the optimistic level. Although the results are shown by that time, and our model is still updated regularly with the evolution of the pandemic, and you can go to the website to know the most recent results if you want to see. Oh, okay. As the audience just discussed about the policy impact, right? How you project projects impact by the policy. My answer is that we didn't project the policy impact. But we gave the potential. We project the gasoline demand under different policies, as I just mentioned. For example, if we reopen the public, how the oil demand goes, and if we do not open the public policy, how the fuel demand and mobility change, how it goes. So actually, in our study, it shows that the difference in motor gasoline demand resulting from the reopening and non-reopening, we use the reference scenario as a basic. So under the reference scenario with no reopening policy, we project that the motor gasoline demand recover much slower than it would be with a reopening policy during the period. However, after the reopening in late May and early June, the rebound in gasoline demand is more prominent than it is in late April and early May. But the cumulative motor gasoline demand during the period from April 23rd to September 21st, under the non-reopening, the total fuel demand actually is more, which means that in the non-reopening policy, although we could still have a very low fuel demand and a low mobility level in a short term, but if you see a long term, you can see the fuel demand actually consumed more, which means in long term, we can have the oil demand recover back much better than the reopening in a short time during the pandemic. So that's our scenario analysis here. And also we here project the we did some back testing also in our model. Here is a model with the inputs in different days. So that's we compare with EIA weekly field demand. So which means uh, most often it's still very close to the results, but because of the pandemic evaluation and at that time we project it might have the second wave, but we didn't expect the second wave is much larger than the first wave. I guess most of the study didn't expect that either. And now we are currently experiencing the third wave. And in current data, the third wave has daily infection new case more than 100,000 cases, is even larger, more serious than the first wave and the second wave. But that's another story. So that's why even with the back testing at that time, it seems okay. I mean, it's not fitting very good, but still okay. But because of the evolution of the pandemic, there are a lot of changes. So with us, that's why we need to still updating our model as the time going. So because we are still updating our model, if you want to go to the most recent results to see, you can go to two websites. One is COVID-19mobility.com. Another one is team.oral.gov product model website. You can go to the website for the most recent results. Now the paper was published in July, and you can go to the link to download this paper. We also published the code, so you can project the data by your own with the code. And the code is published. The link for the code is published by the data, and it's it was stored in the GitHub, so you can download the paper. And this paper was as a cover page, a cover image for the Nature Energy, the journal by Nature Energy. So this image was designed by one of my friends. Besides the study related to the COVID-19, I also want to use two slides to introduce my other study. What my group named as a Transportation Energy Evolution Modeling Group. So we not only project the energy impact by the COVID-19, we also project the energy by any new vehicle technology. That's the example. Different technologies such as electric vehicles, hybrid electric vehicles, and also new business model like shared vehicle business, and some other new technology evolution. We all want to consider it in the vehicle technology in the vehicle market, and we quantify it in the model, and to use the model to project the oil demand, the emissions to the US, to China, to the Europe and the world. And we also consider the profits, how different policy, different vehicle technology, and the different business model impacts the automotive industry, and how the market, how the companies, automotive companies, earn money from the market. So that's my final slide. I guess I spent more than 1 hour for my talk. Hope you are not very tired about my topic. And please let me know if you have any questions, even after you after this talk. You can send me an email, ask me questions after you read the paper. Thank you. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Yeah, thank you. I have a question for you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I noticed there is some fluctuation in the data you predict. Is it caused by fluctuation of the input data or the model itself?
what do you mean the
The
fluctuation? Could you?
fluctuation, it's like it's very there's a very
I
like
think that's the
yeah.
seasonality, right? You mentioned. So
Oh,
is that right?
yeah, but it's not I think it's not very aligned, perfectly aligned with the seasonality. It's very like it's a regular period for the fluctuation.
Yeah, this seasonality here, I think it's weekly, right? The
Yes.
oil demand has been changing and across weeks over the year. So I
Yes.
think that fluctuation you mentioned kind of depict
Mhm.
that weekly seasonality.
Yeah, but
Yes.
you can compare, for example, the in the middle part of the seasonality curve, it's relatively flat, but there's still the periodical oscillation or in the curve you predicted. It's very regularly like you have uh, like it's a very regular period. It could be a week, but I don't know why it's not aligned with the seasonality. Is it caused by something else? For example, the daily case is collected every week, but it's not updated at the weekend, something like that.
Uh, okay. Hope I can I understand your question correctly, but if not, please please ask me again. Um, one, the fluctuation is the seasonality. I won't go more details. You might have already know that. And another one is by weekly fluctuation, as you can see here. If you can see every projection of my model, it has a actually this is a weekly fluctuation here. So in in our model, we project the mobility level and the oil demand in every day. But the government, U.S. Energy Information Administrative, they only release the weekly fuel demand for our projection. So there is a difference there. So in our we just make assumption. We average the fuel demand by days and project it bi-weekly. So that's why you can see the fluctuation here. So usually the oil demand during weekdays are more than the oil demand during the weekend because of the workplace, the trips to the workplace, to the restaurants are more than they are in the weekends. So there is a fluctuation there. So another fluctuation, I think in our study is a headache for us is infection cases. Uh, the infection cases, as you know, we only have the official numbers of the confirmed cases. So we couldn't get the infection cases. So we make some assumptions assumptions for our historic data to transfer the confirmed case to infection cases. So that's how, and we use a 7-day average to levelize the fluctuation for the historic data. And of course, there is a delay of the confirmed case as well. And in my input correlation analysis, we found that shift the US confirmed dates by 7 days seems one of the best in our analysis. So we use that input as changes that change as input in our data as input. So
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
that's the fluctuations I can think about in my study.
Okay, thank you.
So I actually have a like a more I don't know if it's a more technical question. So I think you just mentioned that the reviewer criticized the practice of cross-validation for this time series data, right? So I think you know it's very important for machine learning model for how parameter tuning regarding the time series data. And I don't know what is the final um, like practice in this model. If you're using cross validation for hyperparameter tuning, are all of the out photo data outside of the training folds? Like for example, if you have 5 folds, the four out of the 5 are for training, and 1 is for the validation, right? For each iteration of the cross validation, and so at that out of fold data, out of time of the 4 in fold training.
Uh, actually, the reviewer criticized that actually our data more like the time. In our first version, we didn't use it as a time series data. We use just the simple the
Cross section,
yeah.
you treat it as cross section, but it looks like it's definitely a time series data, right? You cannot ignore the time
Yes.
information.
Yes. So that's the tough part. So because we use that as a cross validation, and that's why in the second review or in that journal, the editor sent our paper to the other 3 reviewers to see whether our revision is correct. Uh, uh, Firstly, we submit another we in our comment review comment at one paper said there is another effection projection paper published by the, another very top channel. It also uses rolling window cross validation, so it's not answer. Usually it's not common tool, and that's how we answer them. So it's really tough for us during that period. We just assume that we might be rejected. But,
Okay, I got you. So so the model end up
that,
with using rolling window approach for the cross validation. Okay,
yes.
I think that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, but I admit that as a user, uh, in that you should the time features of time series. In the first version of our paper, we didn't notice that, but we should do that in the very beginning. That's my experience I want to share with the audience here. So to avoid the very simple mistake. But if you can persuade that the rolling window cross validation is still okay, although it's not the best way to project your model, they may still accept your results. Only if you can avoid the problems such as the overfitting, and you also add the back testing as well in the model to make sure your model not too bad to project the future. So that's the most important thing. The can accept your excuse.
Yeah, I think that is a very good point to mention here because I'm also a model validator, right? I'm acting like a peer reviewer for journal papers, but I'm reviewing internal internal models, right? So there are many times people treat the time series data as cross section, and so for this type of issue, we will ask the modeler to remediate the issue immediately before we can approve the model for future use. So that's a very good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I also want to admit that as a very beginner of the machine learning tool user, there's a lot of things I need to learn, and when I adopt use the tool, I found there are a lot of things I need to consider. It's just a tool we publish as a very high, yeah, so very cautious, and I think that's very important things. What I learned in my experience, and I think I'm pretty lucky in the first round, because in the first round of the review, the reviewer might not all of them from the machine learning field, so only one reviewer found the problem. But in the when the editor found the reviewer has found the problem, the editor sent my revised draft to 3 reviewers from the machine learning field, from the data science field. So do you think if I can time series data, although might be it more suitable for the time series model, but it can project well. And another reason is because I found some other machine learning user also use running validation for the model, for the time series data as well. That's for the reviewer to believe the stability of our model. Yeah, but still be cautious. Not every time I can be that lucky. Yeah.
Okay, thank you a lot. We already run out of time. Thanks a lot, Sean, for sharing this very interesting topic, and also your experience about machine learning models. I think as Sean mentioned, if you have further questions, you can reach out to him. There are also the model code and
Yeah.
paper and the projection tool are also available, and Sean has already shared the links. So if you're interested, feel free to check or reach out to Sean. Thanks a lot, Sean, and thank you all for attending this virtual event. We hope you can register and join our upcoming annual conference, and we're looking forward to seeing you all in this annual conference. Thank you. That's all for today.
Thank you,
Bye.
Ken.
Thank
You,
you.
everybody.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.